My name's Dave DeBow, founder of MoneyPartnerFormula.com, and this show is built for everyday real estate investors who are actively doing deals and looking to scale using other people's money. So if you're an active real estate investor and you want to get featured on this show to talk about your own real estate and capital raising experiences, then just go to daveinterviewsyou.com. Now let's get rolling with this episode, and remember to subscribe for daily interview content.
All right, guys, welcome to Property Profits Podcast. I'm your host, Bryce Kaminsky, filling in for Dave Dubow. And a lot of times there's adversity in our past, and that adversity, you know, there's a saying it can either make the hero and the villain both have adversity. It's how they deal with it. And today on the show, I've got Zachary Gray. From food stamps to over 100 units in under 2 years, the story of how he started and where he's been able to get to in a relatively short period of time. We're going to unpack the secrets. Zachary, welcome to the show. Great to have you here.
Thank you so much for having me on today. I really appreciate the opportunity, and I look forward to hopefully providing some value to fellow listeners. I have learned a lot along my journey from fellow peers, as well as, seeking out continuing education in my path to where I've ended up today. And I think that there's nothing more that I would like to condone than waking up every single day and trying to improve. And I think if you do that, you're bound for success in this life. Awesome.
So let's go back to the beginning of the story. When and how did you get into real estate?
So I got into real estate in 2020. And kind of a little bit of a non-traditional path. My fiance at the time, who I am now married to, her and we lived in an apartment in about 15 to 20 minutes from where I work, and we would live with random roommates. And we ended up, and she basically was like, enough is enough. I know we're saving money by doing it this way, but we got to get out. And so we ended up doing that, and we ended up buying a townhouse in 2018 that we lived in, or 2019 that we lived in for a year or so. And we ended up selling it in 2020 to buy our first duplex. And the reason why I say it's non-traditional is at the time I was self-employed, and I was just starting I basically had less than 2 years tax returns. This is smack dab in the middle of COVID. So I was in a position where, effectively conventional banks wouldn't approve me for lending. And it made the whole process of getting involved really, really challenging. And so during that time, I actually sought out the Bigger Pockets Forum and was asking people who were self-employed, how do you receive funding for an owner-occupied based loan, for your first deal? And I had somebody actually refer me to a portfolio lender that was willing to do the deal in the event that I was able to come up with a 20% down payment for the property. I ended up selling the townhouse that we lived in, rolled some of the gains into the deal, and I had to come up with like a total of like $40K out of pocket. For Massachusetts, $40K for, a property is pretty standard. Most people are putting $40K down for, 5% down owner occupied. So I was kind of happy with that. And I ended up getting my first deal. It was a duplex. It was listed as a 5-bed, 2-bath. I converted that property into an 8-bed, 2-bath. That property I bought at $510,000. I put $40K into working in $7,100 a month.
So, I always like that thing is that the female in a man's life usually gets him out of the cave he's staying in. Like left to our own devices, we probably live in our parents' basement and until they move out or pass away, and then we inherit the home. But it's the walk of shame or the you know, they don't want to have breakfast with mom sitting across the table and she's wearing the same dress as last night, and it's the whole thing. And so similar to your roommate situation, they're like, you know, she's like, I just want to like go to the shower and be able to walk back to the to the room without dealing with, you know, whichever roommate. So it reframes it and, you know, gets you to make that move. And yeah, they usually are the momentum and the human nature of real estate. So when you look at your trajectory now, you know, under 2 years to really acquire at a pace like that, um, what got you motivated and keeps you motivated to keep that pace? Because some people do like one deal a year, and now we're talking about 100+ units in under 2 years. So tell the people a little bit more about how you pulled that off.
Yeah, so I think it all comes back to the point that you kind of prefaced with, which is um, I think one of the things that a lot of people struggle with in this environment is getting their significant other to be on board with this ideology and how to build a support system internally in your home life that condones, you know, taking this on. Because it, you know, and for most people, they got a W-2 job where they're making, you know, decent money.
Yeah.
And then this is effectively a side hustle to start that sucks away free time in perpetuity. And then it only becomes more grueling as the process goes along. So eventually, what ends up happening in the short term is you're working the W-2, and then you're giving away free time and giving away free time and giving away free time. And you get to a point where you don't really have a heck of a lot of free time. And I think for your significant other to support that is really challenging. And so I think that one of the biggest things here is that I sat down in the beginning with my wife and I said, map out to me the life that you want. Tell me all the things that you care about. You
Mm-hmm.
know, this could be material possessions, this could be quality of living, this could be freedom of time, time spent with family, building a family, where you want to live, what you want that house to look like, what do you want the accommodations to have, you know, how much do you want to travel, what do you want your life to look like. And so
Mm-hmm.
I said map all that out. And I was in a position where I felt so confidently in the ability to put my nose down and get this done and grind through it with, you know, with my grit mentality. And I had a couple pieces that worked in my favor, which was I've always been a frugal saver. I was able to compile some money aside during my youth. I through, you know, I was working 30, 40 hours a week in high school. I was working 30, 40 hours a week when I was in college. Um, during my junior and senior year of college, I, you know, started my own personal training business when I was in college, working for, you know, training 25, 30 clients a week, driving house to house.
Mm-hmm.
When I was working my W-2 job, I was on average saving 50 to 60% of my money that I earned per year. Um, and, you know, I wasn't earning an extravagant amount of money. So I think that, you know, that was the starting point. But what I saw is A, I had some capital. B, I had spent the last 2 years while I was, you know, I wasn't able to get qualified as a self-employed, just focusing on learning, focusing on improving my skills. I probably blew through 250, 300 episodes worth of podcast relative to real estate. I probably read 40, 50, 60 books to become informed so that I could execute with proficiency, understood understood the concepts, understood the various loan products, understood the tax benefits, and I could talk about it and articulate it to other people. And so this is what, and then additionally, the last piece was I had a relatively decent network of affluent people who trusted and confided in me personally. So I
Mm-hmm.
think that I sat down with my wife and I said, hey, I'm all in on this strategy. I said, when do you want to start having a family? And she said, probably about 5 or 6 years. I said, give me 5 years, all in on this strategy. And whatever it takes, no questions. You're in. If you do that, we will get to that lifestyle in 5 years. And so at this point, we're probably 2.5 years in, and we're, you know, it's like we are well on our way to what I had what I had established. And I think to that point, I think that one of the big points that people underestimate the value of is sort of homeostasis in the home life. If you can have no conflict, unconditional support, and trust that you are taking the best action possible for the self betterment of you, your loved ones, and that relationship, to build the life for both of you that you both want, that is more powerful than having access to money, more powerful than having, you know, a good W-2 job, more powerful than having a network that is able to invest in deals with you. Because if you have to go home every single day and justify your decisions to people, that's taxing. And
Mm-hmm.
what I'm saying is, in this business, you don't have time for wasted energy, strife, stress, um, and bandwidth being spent on trying to convince other people of your decisions.
Mm-hmm.
So I think the biggest thing is you got to do what is necessary to get your partner on board with the process. And then I think from that point forward, um, in terms of staying motivated, like what motivated me to keep going, again, it's like at the time I was 26 years old, 27 years old, and I said, I want to have a family when I'm 31-ish, 32. And I said, I don't want to, like, my dad was a sole provider. My mom was a stay-at-home mom. My dad was working 6 days a week, 70 hours a week. I saw him one day a week.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, there is nothing more that I respected than my dad grinding his balls off to be in the position that we were in as a family. But at the same time, I said, I totally respect your work ethic. I want to embody that. But at the same time, I want to be materially involved. I want to be present for my family and my kids' lives and my loved ones. And I want to build social relationships in my community. And for me, those things are really challenging to do when you're ball and chained and confined to a cage that you're forced to operate in. And so
Mm-hmm.
I think to that point, my like, I'm a military guy, and it's like, if you asked me, like, what are my underlying principles are community, unity, caring about your loved ones, and unconditional freedom, freedom of self, freedom of time, freedom of obligation. And I think that we so reluctantly accept this path that is carved out for us by societal norms in the government, that we are forced to be complicit in. We are forced to buy a house. We are forced to single family house. We are forced to go to college. We are forced to incur debt. We are
Mm-hmm.
forced to, get married and spend money on the wedding. And then you're ball and chained and saddled to sacrificing 40, 50 years of your life to dig out of the hole. And it's just like,
Mm-hmm.
I'm just not interested in that. So
Yeah.
I think that every day, what keeps me passionate is waking up every single day with that notion, looking at it and saying, how am I going to break that mentality? How am I going to break that, you know, mold of what is being asked of me, and you know, walk a different path?
Yeah. Especially it's interesting. You look at the framework and you say you can do it in 5 years. That's like the thing that people maybe don't see, is that it does only take 5 years of that sort of work to get that result. But then people would rather like do 40. And there's nothing wrong with having a good W-2, but I do think people should also, you know, have a rental or two. Like, it's never gonna hurt you to own a few properties on the side, even if real estate investing in the biggest scale isn't for you. Having a few holds or even some land in town that, in 20 years is going to be 2 or 3 times more expensive just because time flies. So what would you say when you look at everything you've done so far? Um, what's the unfair advantage? You know, what do you find easy that other people might find difficult to do?
Um,
I think the thing that comes to mind, and this is usually what comes with the military guys, is um the discipline to
yeah,
continue.
I think there's a couple things. I think that I grew up, as I mentioned, I grew up in this immediate local area where I'm investing. Um, my my mom was a stay-at-home mom, and we used to go on all kinds of day trips. We used to go on day trips up to Maine, New Hampshire. We used to drive around anywhere that was 45 minutes to an hour of where we lived. I'm familiar with.
Hmm.
And I don't think that's the norm for most people. So anything that was in a mile, anything that was within an hour radius of my childhood home, which happens to be smack dab in the center of Massachusetts, where, you know, we are investing, I'm extremely familiar with those demographics. I could tell you town by town, you know, what has upside, what has good infrastructure, what has higher crime, where is there more drugs, where is there more violence. Like, I could go town by town, and in certain towns I could probably go street by street. I think that's an advantage. But I also think, to the same point that you had mentioned, I think that knowing the market is important. I think that's one skill. But I think that one of the things that I think is just such a clear advantage that every single person has the opportunity to to make use of is, I wake up every single day at 4 a.m. and I am actively working by 5 a.m. every day, and I normally don't shut down until about 7 or 7:30 at night.
Hmm.
If you were putting in 14 hours a day, 5 days a week, and then on weekends, I wake up at 6 a.m. and then I do 4 hours from 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. before I start my day with my friends and family and things like that. And I just think that most people, A, aren't willing to do that, B, can't consistently do that and hold themselves accountable to that level of commitment. It's like, I don't need to be smarter. I don't need to be better. I don't need to be more skilled. What it comes down to is I just am willing to show up and work harder than everybody else every day of my life. And I have since the time I was 17 years old. And this is where I've gotten to. And I know
Hmm.
plenty of friends who have better IQ scores than me, better test scores than me, went to better colleges than me, have more connections than me. And, frankly, what it comes down to is, like, people just don't want it bad enough.
Yeah, I'd always say when you look at, because I used to be in the music business doing recordings sessions for different artists and stuff like that, and it always came down to, over time I realized that talent was only 40%. You could have someone who's like an amazing artist, singer, whatever, but they don't grind at all, and they're never going to get out there. They're never going to accomplish their dreams. But you could have someone who's like an average to slightly above average musician, and they grind so hard. They're at shows, they're putting out music, they're getting on the radio, and there's the ones that make it. Like it's not, talent is all on the grind side, because it doesn't, if it's not out, if it's not done, it's not done. So you got to get it done. Now, when you look at what you're doing, what portion would you say the grind and the talent is for you? You're all
What
probably
portion?
all grind. Probably like you've got your maxing out, because I look at it and I say an artist to be successful has to hit like a 60% marker. So you could be the most talented and hit all 40% of that, and still with no grind, you can't get that last 20%. So if someone grinds hard and is not even that great of a musician, it's like you were saying, there's people with higher IQ scores and this, that, and the other. And yeah, maybe they'd be great at doing what you do, but they're not doing it.
So I think that it's like compound interest, right? I think in your younger years, when you're 16, working part-time jobs, 17, working part-time jobs, 19, 20, 21, when you're in college, like what are you doing to differentiate yourself from your peers? Like that's where it's about work ethic, grinding, grit. And I think that as time goes along, it's like pushing a snowball down the hill, right? It only gets bigger and bigger and bigger over time. So I think that
Mhm.
it's about like, then you reach a threshold of like making use of your skills, being more efficient, right? Developing processes, understanding what are you missing? What is it that you need? Do you need, it's like for me, my weakness is on the administrative front and on like the back end archive organizational front. That's not my strength. And it
Mhm.
drains me to no end. What I
Mhm.
want to do is like I'm a visionary. I want to go out to a property, walk a property, underwrite renovation scope. I want to look at, is there a way for me to add bedrooms? How can I maximize revenue? Like I'm always looking at it for like, glass half full. How can I create the best opportunity here? And then also I'm a 100% extrovert. I want to be able to connect with people, talk with people. I've worked in sales a fair amount, so it's like
Mhm.
I like being able to like I'm able to identify what motivates people, what people are, how they're viewing the situation. And so effectively for me, it's allowed for me to be able to foster relationships. I like doing investor relations, all that kind of stuff. And so for me, I think that as time has gone along, I've identified my strengths, identified my weaknesses, and then I've directly went out and sought out people who fill my weaknesses and saying,
Mhm.
I'm not willing. So it's like every single day I'm waking up and I'm performing the work on the things that drive me. And as I
Mhm.
become more and more successful, I just piece off the things that suck energy out of me. So I think that when you're talking about buying your first property, yeah, you wear all hats and you very quickly realize what you don't like. And
Mhm.
then you get your second property, and then you get your third property, and then it becomes cumbersome. But now the revenue that you have from those first, two or three properties, now you can offload the stuff that drains you. And it's like
Mhm.
when you can offload the stuff that drains you and you're constantly waking up and operating in the realms where you feel passionate and strong, that's what allows for you to keep going at that trajectory, to keep that pace that you're talking about.
Mhm. So with everything you've done so far, what what does the future look like for the business?
Uh, at the beginning of the year, I would have told you like, yep, you know, we have a good investor network. We're looking to acquire, triple digits in terms of units this year.
Mhm.
Um, and we want to increase our operational efficiencies. We want to make our back end more organized. And, that's probably, that would be a great outcome.
Mhm.
Where we stand right now is totally different than that. In just a matter of 2 months. In the first 2 months of the year, we got 78 units under contract. Our objective was to submit 10 offers per month. We're on average right now submitting 25 plus offers per month. Um, and we brought on a full-time administrator. We're bringing on a project manager. So we're adding 2 members to our existing team of 3. And actually, well, we have a boots on ground guy who's like kind of like our assistant, and then we have 2 VAs. So effectively, we have two VAs, a boots on ground guy. We're going to add an admin and a PM, project manager, and then it will be me and my immediate business partner. Um, we've had a great number of connections over the front half of this year that give us a lot of prospects towards future deal funding.
Mhm.
And I think that all of the deals that we executed over the last year um, are fully stabilized, prepared for refinance. And in most of our deals from 2023, we are already fully stabilized on all of our 2023 deals. We are expecting to be able to refinance between 70 and 100% of capital to our investors after 1 year of ownership. And all
Nice.
of that capital is going to get funneled back into deals that we're going to be executing. And that's on top of whatever access to capital we have right now. So I'm looking at it saying, we got, almost 80 units in the first 2 months. I'm excited to see what happens for the remainder of the year. I think it would be extremely possible, to acquire an additional, 80 to 120 units this year. And I think at that point, that would be a pretty cool thing to accomplish.
Yeah, the scale factor. So what's the biggest challenge that you foresee in 2024 for your business?
I think the biggest challenge is our getting our administrator on board with being able to submit documents for loan requests. Because that's something that sucks the life out of me. As I mentioned, I do not like administrative stuff, but I think the bigger one is deal flow. Like, I think right now we're really strong with the lead funnel that we built and our deal flow. And I think as time goes along, obviously you're going to have more access to monetary resources, which I think will only allow for you to explore additional means for deal flow. So I know it's a big challenge, but ultimately I do think that as time goes along and you have more financial means, it certainly is going to allow for you to continue to tap into some new lead sources, things like direct mail, things like cold call, um, those types of avenues, maybe text campaigns, things like that. But I think that, you know, I know it's a big challenge for most people. I think at this point, our only capacity, our only limitation to scale is deal flow. And so I think that kind of hits on the other piece that I had kind of alluded to and talked to you with, earlier, which is um, any person who is in New England, so Massachusetts, Connecticut, Rhode Island, or New Hampshire, if you come across a deal that you feel is valuable, that you feel like you personally cannot take down, we will cut in any person who brings us a deal. They'll get 10% equity stake in the deal itself for finding the deal and bringing it to us. And they have to do nothing other than just bring us the deal. So we'll raise all the capital, we'll operate the deal. We'll seek out lending, we'll do front to back the whole process. We'll do all the work. So I think one of the big things that differentiates us as operators is like we're not always looking to delegate out all of the work. I think that our superpower, meaning me and my business partner Andrew Freed, is that we are skilled operators in the stabilization space. I think there's a reason why all of our deals are stabilized and we're able to refinance those deals in under a year of ownership. And I think that's a byproduct of our urgency and velocity of execution. And I think that that's why we continue to stay in our lane, which is crushing it in the operational realm. So I think that the two things that I want to hit on is like, if you're interested in investing in deals with us, join our newsletter. And I think that also, if you're interested in partnering with us, hit us up with a deal and we'll take it from there.
Awesome. So if people want to connect with you, they want to find out more, what should they do? How do they find you?
Yeah, I would say connect with me on Instagram. My handle is the 1099 mindset. So at the 1099 mindset. And on my Instagram, you can also join our monthly newsletter. So on our monthly newsletter, we send out off-market deals that we have access to that we're not going to be doing, that we give out to our network. We also put out investor-based tips based off of our experience. And then we also talk about all the acquisitions that we're doing, how we funded the deal, how we financed the deal, what we bought the deal for, what our expected sale price is. And then we also talk about the properties that we offered on. And we also talk about deals that have come full circle. So we also will bring up situations where we say, hey, this deal is fully stabilized. This is the amount of money we were able to provide back to investors. This was the timeline. So you get a very clear, articulate, insight into our return structure on the deals that we're operating.
Yeah, that's like the before and after in the business. After stabilization, this was the projected, this is the outcome. Look, we hit it again.
You got it.
So yeah, I really appreciate Zachary, I really appreciate you stopping by and letting people know what it is you're doing out there, and that they can participate. Yeah, I really appreciate the mindset you delivered today.
Absolutely, man. Thank you so much.
No problem. Until next time, guys, we'll catch you on the next episode.
Hey there, I really hope you enjoyed that episode. And as always, if you want to listen to more daily interview content, make sure you subscribe. And if you're an active real estate investor and you're doing deals and you'd like to get featured on this show, then just head over to daveinterviewyou.com. Now at moneypartnerformula.com, we help real estate investors to create a process for predictably getting capital so they can do more deals without relying on hard money lenders or the banks. We do this by building them a private capital marketing system. Now, if you want help turning yourself into a big money capital attraction machine, then book a call with our team to see how we can help. Just visit moneypartnerformula.com to find out more. All right, take care, and we'll see you on the next interview.